onto the 5 freeway right now. This came out of the Antelope Valley. Now, the sheriff's department were the ones that were the victims, actually, of that driver. This started as an assault on a sheriff's officer up in the Antelope Valley. Now, they were in pursuit. They handed it over to the California Highway Patrol. They do have a sheriff's helicopter above it as well. Highway Patrol was behind this vehicle for some time on the 14 freeway, but then that driver doing what we're seeing right there, some very erratic driving, 100 miles an hour plus, as he was making his way on the emergency roads, on the far sides of the roads right there, and now he's making his way southbound onto the 14. Olivier is going south on the 14. Sorry about that, guys. At any rate, they basically backed off. They said, you know what, we're just going to give it to the helicopter right now, and they're going to follow it from the air. Dangerous on the ground, and that's basically what's been going on. Now, the California Highway Patrol has notified other agencies of this pursuit and also know what's going on. I have to work with Olivier, my pilot, right, just real quick, just to make sure that we're all on the same page here. I'll be right back with you guys, but right now, southbound 405, we're getting very close to Rinaldi, and the next one will be the 118.
It seems like the roads are kind of empty, doesn't it?
I was going to say that's a good thing.
It's like a Monday light.
Right now at 10:47, looking at the 5 freeway there, again, a pursuit of an assault suspect. That suspect apparently going after a sheriff deputy, and that's what all sparked this whole thing right now. But clearly, the good thing is that there's not a lot of traffic at this point on the 5 as that vehicle is making its way, but going over 100 miles per hour at some point, and also going across the Gore Point on the freeway, just kind of merging through traffic. There was a little bit of a close call there with one car at least, but thankfully, again, not a lot of traffic at this point.
It seems like a bit of a reckless driving behavior here, and this is just the beginning of it. Yes, it is good there aren't many cars on the road, but you know, Stu, we always talk about it. All the people who are on the road right now are completely unaware that this is happening.
You know, it just needs one car. That's the only thing, is one person just is going to be driving down there, just doing what they should be doing, just driving along, and then this vehicle will barrel into them, and that's definitely what we don't want to see. Now, the assault on an officer is a very is a very high offense. So they're not going to let this go. That is for sure. I'm wondering though when they're going to bring some more of the LAPD or some of the other law enforcement into play right there. Again, you can see them in the emergency lane, high speed, 70 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour as we're making our way southbound on the 405 freeway. This is a portion of the 405 where it does really kind of squeeze down and it gets a little bit narrow down there. If you've driven this area, this is where you start losing those right lanes to kind of move you over to the left. And then, of course, everybody knows about the traffic if we make our way, keep making our way southbound and we get over to that Sepulveda Pass. Right now, getting into the carpool lane looks a little bit better right there. Now, the Sheriff's Department, they're still overhead. LAPD, they might be joining this here momentarily. And again, Skyfox working to kind of keep up with this right now, but it's working its way southbound on the 405. We're definitely in the North Hills area right now. And again, assault on a peace officer, they're not going to let this go. That driver driving very erratically, we saw a couple of weird moves right there. And every time they get into those emergency lanes, I always think to myself, I'm the guy that gets in an emergency lane just for a second, maybe to make a phone call, and I pick up a nail. These guys seem to drive in them all the time. We never seem to be that lucky.
Yeah, such a dangerous situation, Stu, as we're watching right now on the 405. At this point, look, he's going... Yeah, changing lanes right there.
Maybe exiting.
A little wider shot, getting off.
You got heavy traffic down there as well. You can see like you got a lot of stopped vehicles. Now there is no law enforcement directly behind him right now. To see how we're going to keep an eye on him to see the desperate move. Meaning, is he going to try to drive off the road there, trying to push his way through the foliage, keeping his pushing. Thank goodness he isn't hitting anybody. But you just got to kind of wonder. You're sitting down there in traffic right now, and you're thinking to yourself, what is this guy doing? You know,
Yeah.
somebody's got to, you know, what is going on here? Making his way across and just getting back onto the 405. This is very erratic behavior indeed. And of course, the 405, we all know this is really the height of traffic. You got California Highway Patrol right there, and you're wondering what this guy definitely going to engage. We are going to be listening right there, but at least the public's going to have heads up. There's going to be lights and sirens. Now it's going to, that's going to be, I believe that's going to be West Valley. That's going to be a portion of West Valley California Highway Patrol, and you can see him making his way over there. And this driver, you know, the fact that he is somehow injured a deputy earlier on shows the desperation or the, you know, the mindset of that person behind the wheels. This is going to be one of the ones when it comes to an end. How it ends is going to be very, very crucial. Hopefully nobody gets hurt, not even that suspect.
You know, it's interesting that this driver chose to exit almost like they knew what they were doing, right? Because you don't exit randomly, and then decide to jump back on because for whatever reason, I mean, he or she, whatever, whoever this driver is, was making it, you know, its way past the kind of the clogged situation there by the exit. We always talk about how oftentimes these pursuit suspects go to areas that they are familiar with. And we can't really speculate what is behind the mind of this driver, but it was just strange to exit and then enter once again right away.
Definitely, and it was very unusual, and you saw the desperation of that driver driving through the foliage, going off-road there. You know, I was kind of a little bit hoping that that vehicle might get stuck, and it would just kind of come to an end, or at least into some sort of foot pursuit. But this driver got lucky, made his way through there, and then that California Highway Patrol, I would venture to say, was sitting there doing the making sure people getting on the freeway use the carpool lane when they are using the carpool lane. Looks like they backed off again, and they're just doing surveillance right now. This is very unusual. You'd think that at least they'd have lights and sirens, or that one vehicle would stay behind it. Pushing, getting really up in the speeds right there. You can see how they're passing the other vehicles. This is an area where there is a lot of traffic. We're coming up on Sherman Way. That's usually when you start getting on the brakes out here for the 405 freeway. I'm trying to get Sky Fox maybe in a little bit of a better spot right there. I'm in a little trouble getting my pilot's attention right now, but you can see that vehicle continuing on, and unusually light this morning. If you were a commuter right now, you'd probably be sitting in traffic. It was you or I making our way. I believe that's going to be Burbank. Just going to get a little wider. I promise I won't lose the car. But yeah, we're coming up on Burbank right there. So this is usually where they're hard on the brakes. And this morning, we got super Monday light traffic. This suspect, very lucky so far. Hopefully nobody gets injured. Hopefully no civilians get injured. But this pursuit continuing as we're making our way southbound on the 405 freeway, Sherman Oaks area. He's got the 101, but we'll figure out which way he goes here in just a moment.
All right, there you see the suspect making its way on the 405, as Stu is mentioning, and it's interesting because that suspect did pass a CHP officer, and we don't see those lights and sirens, as Stu is mentioning. So clearly they're monitoring this, but from a distance, right, Stu? There's another one, a black and white right there, but not taking off, going after the suspect.
Not taking off. You know, they're doing the surveillance right now, and it is public. You know, it's public safety is what the biggest concern is. And I've said this 100 times in the past. I could not be that person to make those decisions, because it really is one of those ones where if this suspect does something now and creates an incident and there's injuries, you know, they're going to look at the law enforcement and say, well, why weren't you behind it? And if they are behind it, they're going to look at law enforcement and say, why were you chasing him? So it really is a no-win for these officers, but they have such a difficult job, and public safety is number one on their agenda. I can tell you the speeds have really slowed down a little bit up here as we're making our way climbing up the Sepulveda Pass. Again, I'm just shocked at the lack of traffic out here today. As you can see it right there, they're just, there's almost no vehicles on the roadway, and I've got to really work with my pilot right now, Olivier, to get him to stay in an area where we can keep an eye on that actual vehicle itself.
Yeah, it is really strange how there aren't many cars on the road. I mean, thankfully, because this suspect seems to be speeding, making his or her way through the lanes, and it gives this person a bit of a leeway, I guess, to drive a bit erratically and not have to worry about putting other people at harm's way. So let's just back up for a moment, and for those who are just maybe joining us right now, Stu, why don't you tell us again when this began, how long it's been going, and what this is about?
Okay, can we move a little bit maybe to the west, to the east? Yeah, isn't that where the TFR is?
All right, as Stu is resetting with his pilot, we can just mention that we are getting word from a spokesperson, a deputy at the Sheriff's Department, who says that this pursuit started when a deputy almost got his foot run over by this suspect. So again, when you're in that situation, they're not taking this lightly. That is an assault against a peace officer, as Stu was mentioning. And now you see this erratic driving from this assault suspect as this driver is making its way down the 405. And as he's hitting more traffic, going on those emergency lanes and off to the shoulder of the freeway to try to get ahead of all this traffic. But clearly it is a very dangerous situation with high rates of speed. We've been monitoring, Stu. And what are you seeing so far in terms of the behavior as you are getting your shot fixed from Skyfox?
Well, I have a couple of things that we have to mention. Our vice president is in town today. If folks don't know that, she does live in the Westwood area, and that actually is giving us a TFR, a flight restriction area, and that's creating a little bit of an issue right now. I'm going to try to work with Olivier, and we're going to try to keep an eye on this thing and maybe make it, and this is what we were worried about right there. If we can maybe make our way a little bit farther south, Olivier, and then maybe pick it up on the 405 a little bit farther south. But right now, that's the end of that for this moment because of the vice presidential TFR. Kamala is Vice President Harris is staying in the Westwood area, so we are kind of limited on where we can fly. So we're going to try to make our way around this invisible ring and try to pick it up a little bit farther south. Sorry about this, guys.
No apologies there. Obviously, you're restricted in terms of where you could fly, and that flight restriction because of the vice president's appearance in town. She will be leaving the LA area later this afternoon after a conference about climate change or green energy, and she is in town for that. But again, you've been watching the pursuit of an assault suspect wanted for allegedly running over the foot of a deputy who was on a traffic stop. And there you see the suspect. He made his way down the 405 freeway out of the valley, it seems like, and it also looks like Skyfox is encountering a lot of fog there, at least from our shot right now, but trying to get around the flight restrictions that are in place because of the vice president's visit.
Maybe that's why traffic was kind of light as well. I don't know, they could be closing things off. But yeah, you do see that thick marine layer, which is something that we've had throughout the morning. Bob's been talking about it all morning. So that is the shot we're looking at right now because of the situation. But, the good news, I guess, in all of this is despite the suspect driving at high rates of speed and being erratic in many situations, he didn't hit anyone, or she or he did not hit anyone. So that is certainly the good news here.
Yeah, it certainly looks like no other cars have been impacted because of this erratic behavior and the driving of this assault suspect, as deputies and law enforcement keep a watchful eye on this pursuit suspect, because from afar they are monitoring his or her actions in terms of being behind the wheel at this point. But again, we're just showing you this shot because of the flight restrictions that are in place because of the vice president's visit here to the LA area. And of course, we will pick up more of this pursuit when we can get a clear shot of this suspect that is being closely monitored by law enforcement.
All right, Stu and Skyfox, thank you for the crew up there for doing what you could with the limit that we have before us. And again, this is out of our control, obviously. But again, good news is that no one, innocent bystanders, no other vehicles were hit and no one was injured in this pursuit that we've been following. All right, thanks for being with us, and Sherry Shepard starts right now.
Yes, I can hear you. I just heard them where they were just a second ago. I'm looking for them. Is that him? That's him. That's him. Cool, thank you. Yep, just went under the Sunset Overpass. That's him right there. Oh yeah, sure, anytime. I don't know how long we can stay with it though, but yeah, if you want to do something, definitely, I'm here. Yep, I'm pretty sure that's him. I wasn't 100%, but now I am. So basically what they just said is that they're going to try to get a unit behind him and try to stop him. And if they stop him, if he stops, great. And if he doesn't, they're just going to let it go. Well, where we are right now looks like we're just going to be getting off the freeway again. This just gets more and more complicated for Skyfox this morning. This is a pursuit that started up in the Antelope Valley. Fog and clouds were keeping us on the ground, but we did make that effort, and it came down the 14 freeway. Getting off the freeway there at Wilshire Boulevard, and you can see this vehicle still moving very, very quickly and basically running from nobody. That's kind of the big issue right now. There are no law enforcement behind him. There is a helicopter in the air, and I have to... Forth on, is that helicopter actually still there? There is a TFR for our vice president. She is in town right now, and so we're not able to. Look at this, just getting out of the car and getting back in the car. California Highway Patrol, they basically were told, they were basically told if he gives up, they can take him into custody. Is that the most strangest thing you've ever heard? And if he runs, they're told to not pursue him. But it does look like it is coming to an end right there, right at the end of Wilshire's, the Wilshire off-ramp off the 405 freeway. That vehicle stopping on his own. The windows are down, the hands are out. I would venture to say this is coming to an end.
Yeah, it all started with a traffic stop, as you mentioned, in the Antelope Valley, and apparently this driver allegedly ran over the foot of a deputy there and then took off. So that's what we've been following so far, ending right here, hopefully calmly and without injury right now. But yeah, the driver just coming to a stop right in the middle of the road right there on Wilshire.
And you saw the vehicle behind this driver stopped, confused, didn't know what to do. Once all of the police cars approached, that vehicle reversed and got out of that situation very wisely. But that driver must have been very confused.
Oh, you just got to wonder. It's like when something it's quick action like that, very fluid situation. Whatever that driver did, it looks like they backed up, maybe by the orders of law enforcement. But right now, see, we can kind of tell what's going on. It looks like there's a lot of conversation. I'm sure this suspect has a lot of weapons drawn on them. We know what it was all about. We know that it was, that this suspect drove over the foot of a deputy. It sounds like nothing, but it is still qualifies as assault on an officer. A lot of these officers from California Highway Patrol, they might not have that exact information. All they know was an assault on one of their fellow brethren. So they're going to take this extremely, extremely seriously, and it is a very serious offense. But right now, though, there's a lot of conversation. They've got this guy out. He is following the directions, and as it stands right now, it looks like they're just going to take him into custody. But this pursuit coming to an end out here in the Wilshire area, and we watched it. It just was for this driver to just stop like that in the middle of the road is very unusual after making all those insane driving moves in just a few that we saw. But he was going 100 miles an hour on the emergency lane at one point. So very, very dangerous situation now coming to an end with that suspect going into custody.
Wow. All right. Well, the best case scenario right there. And again, no one got hurt. No other vehicles were hit. So this is the end.
And it looks like they want to clear that car, right, to make sure that nothing or nobody else is inside that SUV. So there you see the deputies surrounding the suspect's vehicle right there, because of course their concern right now is to clear that vehicle.
So we're going to watch as they do that. You can't. As we watch this, nothing is a slam dunk, right? They have to take all of the necessary precautions. You just never know what can happen, and they're unaware of, again, who someone could be in there. You just never know. So you have to do this process step by step.
Yep, and they follow their process and they do what they need to do and what they're trained to do. You can see that last door open back there. We can't really see it, but the official code 4 there that officer putting up his hand with showing, and it was hard to tell, but I'm telling you, he has 4 fingers up and he did the code 4. So this definitely coming to an end out here. A lot of folks on Wilshire Boulevard probably going, well, what was that all about? But that vehicle definitely still in the roadway. They'll clear it out. They'll move it over, but that suspect in custody from Antelope Valley down to the Wilshire area, West LA. It was a quick ride, very scary, probably scared a lot of folks this morning, but right now, in custody.
All right, Stu, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us on this breaking news situation, the pursuit of an assault suspect resolving peacefully. Now back to Sherry.